and welcome to the Library of Congress. Welcome. I'm Librarian of Congress, Carla Hayden, and I'm so delighted to see so many of you here today because we have not just one incredible guest, we have two. And there is much to admire in the two brilliant women who will be joining us shortly. Now, you know Brooke Shields as an actor and a model, but I actually encourage you today to think of her as someone who has a rare grace to growing older with deep thoughtfulness and candor. Her new book, after all, is titled, Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Grow Old. Thoughts on Aging as a Woman, and some of us can relate to that. Brooke is the author of two previous books, one about her mother and one about postpartum depression. But in her latest book, she reveals what it's finally like to call the shots in her own life. This book is engaging and joyful, and we are honored to host her. And can you imagine a better moderator to be in conversation with Brooke Shields than the amazing Norah O'Donnell? Now, I just want to say, and I know you join me in saying congratulations to Norah for recently completing 12 years as an anchor at CBS News, since 2019 at the CBS Evening News, and as the co-anchor of CBS This Morning from 2012 to 2019. She was also the network's chief White House correspondent, and during her career, we have all come to deeply trust her integrity as a journalist and her warmth, and in particular, her devotion to stories about women and the lives we lead. But don't worry, Norah is staying on at CBS and will be contributing to 60 Minutes and the CBS Evening News. I just also have to thank Norah for being a wonderful advocate and supporter of the Library of Congress, and we deeply appreciate her support over the years. So, we hope to produce more of these lunchtime conversations like this one, so stay tuned for future events. And this year, we're also counting down to the 25th anniversary of the Library of Congress National Book Festival. We hope you can save the date because it is Saturday, September 6th, and it will be again at the Washington Convention Center. But now, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage our two guests, and please, and I don't think I have to tell you this though, give us thunderous applause to Brooke Shields and Norah O'Donnell.
Brooke Shields, welcome to Washington.
I've made it.
And I just have to say that Dr. Carla Hayden is my favorite person ever, who leads this Library of Congress and who has transformed the Library of Congress and brings such great speakers. So, round of applause for Dr. Carla Hayden, superstar. Yeah. So, Brooke, this is such a treat to have you here and to get to talk to you. And does everybody get
How
her
you
book?
feel after?
So, you've written books before. Why did you want to write this book?
So I usually write things, I write about things that have been difficult in my life, just to sort of say that this is what I've gone through, and I didn't want to be alone in a lot of my experiences, and so in writing about them, I'm able to sort of open up the conversation. This was a book that my agents asked me to write because I had started a company in my 50s, and they were so shocked that a woman in her 50s, the old age of 50s, could try something new. And I was angry. I was incensed by that because I thought, what we are formidable in this era of our lives, and we've done so much, and we've raised kids and had had companies or done whatever. You get to this age in your life, and it is a type of a new beginning. And I said, all right, I will write about this era and what it's like to start something completely new in my 50s and be, I had a learning curve that I'm still in the midst of, learning what business is and learning what it means to be a startup. But I wanted this era of life to be substantiated with research, because I was feeling really good about myself. I didn't compare myself. I'm not comparing myself anymore to other people. I'm not worried about my body in the way I used to be. And I think that all those things that sort of burdened me in my younger years, I've been released from. And I wanted women to have that conversation with me. So I wanted this book to have a lot of research. So it was like the facts of confidence, like when a woman comes into a level of confidence that she's never had before. There's studies about it, and it's encouraging. And we shouldn't. I always joke, like, if you look at marketing or you look at the beauty industry, you're either the hot girl at the bar or you're in Depends. That's it. Throw some dentures in there and you're good to go. And that is not all, that's not us. We are so much more than that. And we are a growing demo of women over 40, and we're fabulous. And we don't know what this next stage is going to hold for us, but that's exciting.
It's so exciting. It's a great book, and as Brooke pointed out, it's not only about her life too, but then there's all these great studies and research behind it. So chock full of information that you learn so much, not just about Brooke, but I think about for all of us, women and aging. And I love what you write. You said, I'll admit the increase in confidence, or the willingness to choose confidence, has been my favorite part about this stage of life. And you point out confidence with this research too is not what you think it is, right?
No, it's different at different times of your life, and it goes through a different sort of set of criteria, And I've been riddled. I think we all are, but riddled with insecurities, And then I'm in a public eye, and in the public eye, and in the entertainment industry, and then you add social media, and then the vitriol that gets like hurled at you, and this time in my life feels simpler. It feels, I'm not angry. I'm not fighting. I'm just proud. My girls want to be around me. Like, it's amazing. But those are the things, they're these sort of they're cleaner, clearer things in your life if you've been lucky enough to get this far. And you can look back. I mean, we just looked back. We just really got a chance I got to look back at my life, and you look back and you think, wow, I've made it this far, and I feel really lucky, and I have good people in my life. So,
how many people have seen Pretty Baby? Not the movie, but the documentary about her life, right? Incredible.
2 of you.
So we just go upstairs and the Library of Congress, and there are all these parts about Brooke's life, including, I did not know that she had gone on 27 USO tours with Bob Hope. And then, of course, she was the youngest. Were you the youngest host of Sesame Street ever?
I was the youngest host of Sesame Street.
So they had some of that upstairs.
And Miss Piggy was not happy about it. She thought I was going to steal her man.
Kermit would never leave Miss Piggy, right?
Never. If he knows what's good for him, he would not. He wouldn't want her mad at him.
Maybe for Brooke Shields, though.
No, I played Alice in Wonderland, and the interesting thing about doing the Muppets is you go. It was all done in London, and they had never let anybody in the shop. And so I got to go in the shop, and I got to make some of the Muppets that appeared in the episode. But because a lot of my character was done in green screen, because I was Alice in Wonderland, so I got really big and really little, when I didn't get to work with them that closely, but Miss Piggy made it clear that she tried to step on me when I was small. And she would go, achoo! And so she tried to do away with me, but we made up at the end of that.
And then Brooke Shields' thesis was up there from Princeton, which you didn't know that the Library of Congress had your thesis from
I
Princeton.
had no idea that I mean, I didn't, God, it's just the fact that it's there and it's my thesis is just, it's almost too much to be able to accept. It's such an honor. It's in the Library of Congress. It's so crazy when I don't think I look, I think I compartmentalize. You know, I think I've done so many different things and they don't all fit together. And I think I've just gone from one thing to the next. And it's you know, where the water is warm. You know, they didn't want me in film when I got out of college. So I was able to do theater. And then, you know, from theater I went to TV and you just keep going. And then you go and you see some parts of your life that are there and you think, wow, I've lived a life and I'm still here.
You really are one of the hardest working people I have ever met, and truly one of the kindest people I have ever met. And now with this book too, I think what you're doing once again is opening up a really important conversation. And you sort of say this idea in the consumer market that women shouldn't age, that we shouldn't get wrinkles, and God forbid we shouldn't have a voice. Do you think that's changing? What is changing?
I do think it is changing. I think the conversation is changing. I think just being able to write a book like this and have it be well received, which it is being very well received, because it's starting the conversation. And I think that, again, I reiterate that it doesn't have to be an angry conversation. It can just be, let's look at this. Let's look at what we do to ourselves. Let's look at how we break ourselves down and beat ourselves up. And I think you're starting to see it in film and in TV. You know, this idea that, you know, women in this era of their lives can be interesting, can be sexy, can be varied, can be all they are. And I do think it's changing, but I think that we need to keep having these conversations. I mean, it's not a groundbreaking book, but what it is just, let's talk about it. Have you experienced this? I'm in the public eye, so that's just one version. Every woman I know who's even over 40 is feeling this type of invisibility, and the minute your ovaries don't work, you kind of lose your value, you know, and we need to talk about that, you know, because I think it's important. It's important for my girls to see their mother in the world, and I'm not afraid of hard work, but it's really important that we raise this next generation to sort of be proud of all that they've done and be excited to do whatever they want next.
It does. It comes at such a great time, and I feel like there's so many more women and doctors who are talking about menopause too, publicly. Do you remember when you first started having that conversation with menopause and what perhaps your doctor did or didn't tell you?
I thought I was dying. I was doing a movie, and I'm like notorious for not making the crew or anybody wait for me. I'm early, and I'm just like a good soldier. And I was in a scene in a car, and we were in Charleston, and my character was dying, actually. And so maybe I thought I was very method. And all of a sudden, it was like a bucket of water had been dumped on my head. And the makeup artist couldn't mop it up. And it didn't stop. And then I started really thinking that something was terrible happening to me. And the director takes me out of the car, and she goes, "Let's go for a walk." And she goes, "It might be that time." And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it was so interesting to me that it was this like hush hush, this terrible thing that I was all of a sudden, it was my fault. And you know, we were in overtime and the crew was tired and I didn't want to make anybody wait any longer. they had to wait till I dried up. Anyway, and it was when I was so embarrassed, and I called my doctor the next morning, and I said, "What's happening to me?" And she said, "Oh boy," she said, "they just don't. You're not taught about it." And then I learned about hormones and what's happening, but the shame. I was so embarrassed, and I thought, God, why is it my fault?
Right.
I don't want to feel this. This isn't, something about it didn't feel fair. And I realized, and in the book, we found out that so many doctors don't even learn about menopause in medical school. And I'm glad they're talking about it. But by the same token, we're not just menopause. It really is. Like, we're sort of, oh, okay, you're not that, so now you're just menopause. And that's not true either. We're more than that, So I think that these kinds of conversations are improving and happening.
And your point about we're just more than that. I mean, I think one of the most important lessons too from this book is self-advocacy, especially when it comes to medical care, Brooke. And I mean, I'm sure you've had some good care, but you've also had some pretty awful doctors.
I don't think they thought they were. I've had some. I think first of all, the most recent one is I broke my femur, and I was in the hospital, and
the biggest bone in your body is your femur. That's a hard bone.
There
to
were
break.
sounds that came out of my body that when I was on the ground writhing, and I'd never. It was shocking. But I was brought to emergency, and then they operated on me. They weren't supposed to operate on me. I was supposed to get prepped and brought to a different hospital, and I was out of it, so I didn't know what was happening. And they operated on me, and then the next day, I was in excruciating pain. And I said, "Please give me an X-ray." And they said, "We gave you one." I said, "Give me another one." And they were like, "Well, ma'am." I was like, "First of all, don't call me ma'am. Second of all, if you'd like me to be a hysterical female, I will be happy to oblige. I'm an actress. I can do it." And I said, "But I think it would behoove you to give me another X-ray." And they gave me another X-ray, and the bone had popped off the device. And it was so interesting to me, and I thought, wow, it's so hard for women to self-advocate, and their version of pain, their expression of pain is weighed differently than men's pain. Like, we've done a lot of research on this, and it was just a very interesting, terrifying thing to have happened to me. The other one, you want to go to the labia?
Let's talk about it.
We're on my labia now, people. I had a female surgery in the Netherlands, and when it was a necessary surgery, and the doctor, when I went to go get the checkup after, he literally clucked at me and went, and I was like, "What do you do? Why?" And he said, "I tightened you up a bit." Okay, yes, gasp at that. That is so egregious and so horrible, and so like he was doing me a favor. Like I was gonna, I don't know what he thought I was gonna do with the area, but I didn't I was like, that's not, and I thought, what? And I was so embarrassed. I didn't ruin his career. I didn't say anything. I didn't even tell my husband, and it was as if he was doing something for my husband, but he was doing me a favor. I was so shocked that could happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
It was really disturbing, and we talked about it with a lot of the young women that I work with, and I even sent it to actually my urologist, who is a sexual health medicine doctor too. I sent it to her, and she was outraged. But amongst the young women too that I work with too, they have, I think, a different sense than our generation, and they were like, "Why didn't she sue him?"
I don't blame them for.
And that's not a judgment on you at all, but
No,
I'm just saying,
and
we were so outraged by it.
And why didn't I? Like, that to me is really interesting. Why was I not more outraged? Why was my immediate response embarrassment and shame? And somehow I didn't feel thankful. It has actually been caused complications, but that was the piece that I was interested in, is why not? And the shame that I felt for something that was just not my fault. It was
Basic care, basic women's health.
It's just women's health, but we're so ashamed and icked out, and nobody wants to talk about it, and it just, we have to normalize all these conversations. And I do find my daughters, 18 and 21, and they are much more apt to self-advocate, and they're righteous about a lot of things, and part of it's a pain in the ass in my house, but you think to yourself they're going to be okay in the world because they're not pushovers. And my generation was, make yourself smaller, be quiet, don't rock the boat, don't do all these, be a good girl, and that's not fair. It wastes a lot of energy and time.
Have you seen the Barbie movie?
I have seen the Barbie movie.
Yeah. So I thought this was kind of your version of the Barbie movie, right? Like on page 45.
The America Ferrera
Yeah,
speech.
the America Ferrera speech, yes. And this is the Brooke version of it. And if I'm just you guys are getting the book, so you'll see it. But I just wanted to get where you said, if you're a man who is forthright, you're a leader. A woman, you're a bitch. When men exude confidence, it's not only expected but admired. Whereas when we do, it's met with shock and disdain. And you go on to say, we shame women for not looking like they did as teens, and then shame them for any intervention that they undergo to look younger.
It is what we experience, and you have to, and I try to tell my girls this too. I said, it's unfortunate when you, like, I go into these rooms to raise money for my company. And what's been really interesting is the men that I have met, the venture capitalists that I've met, immediately go to what I'm doing wrong. And they explain how I'm wrong and how I'm got a hard road ahead of me with the company and all this. And I finally and women venture capitalists, none of them did this. Every single room that I went into with a female VC, they said, you know what, this is what I have found to be helpful, and this is what we've learned. And they brought me into the conversation for them. The men just started attacking me. And finally, I was fed up, and I said, I'm sorry, but I didn't ask for your opinion.
Whoop!
I said, I just want your money.
Wait.
It could have been a little bitchy, maybe, but it was, I said, you know what, I cannot sit here, and I'm coming to you with a request and a need. And if you don't want to, it's your prerogative, and I don't want to waste your time. But it was the first time. I would never have done that in my younger years. I would have been not liked. That wouldn't have been. And so I think that we are in a precarious position. If you don't look, the reason why the title is that is because a guy, I met a man who was very flirty, and then when he heard my age, he all of a sudden was like, oh. And I thought, well, a second ago you were flirting with me, and now you can't flirt with a 59-year-old. And you can't find a 59-year-old appealing. It was just a very interesting psychological approach to this. But that's what women, it's like the Barbie speech. If you're too much of one, they don't want you to be. And we just have to keep the pressure on, but do it from a place of just solid respect for ourselves. And it doesn't have to be angry, and it doesn't have to be loud. It can just be very settled and trusting of what you really feel you deserve.
I love it. I think, and you talk to I forget if it's a psychiatrist or a sociologist, something in the book about that issue about confidence, and you said confidence is actually a belief in your abilities and capacity to overcome challenges. And so what have you found by gaining that confidence in this era of your life when you say comments like that? Like, what do you find in I think Glamour recently called it your F it era. I'm not saying the F word because it is being recorded, but, and what have you found?
My mother used to say, never say fuck in front of the BABY. There you go, it's on tape, people.
So you're definitely in that era.
I'm in an era of not just wanting to give over all of my power and confidence. I know it sounds like it should be on a mug, but like I don't want to feel less than anymore. I don't feel better than anybody, but I've made myself less than to make other people comfortable, and I don't want to do that to myself anymore, and I don't want my daughters to do it. So there is this era that is it's enjoyable, but there's a peacefulness to it too, because I got this far, and I want to be able to go. When I say confidence is about overcoming challenges, I have to remind myself to be confident every day. And every day is going to be a new challenge, and every day I'm going to get insecure about something. And I just have to remind myself to tune it out and be that person to myself that I would want to be, as a friend. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like we are challenged all the time, and sometimes we are our most challenging to ourselves, because we have that little voice and it answers all the negative questions you have about yourself, and it makes you convinced that you're worthless, and it's all the time. You got to tune it out and only be a good friend to yourself, and you'd be surprised how over time it starts to get a little easier.
The book is such a fun read, and you have so many great stories in there, and as we mentioned, kind of research and the science behind a lot of these feelings and times in our life. You do also spend time talking about marriage. How long have you been married to Chris? What are some of the secrets to a good marriage?
26 years. You have to be willing to get to know each other again at different times. Our kids are gone, and now we're like, oh. And so and we change at different paces, and you have to. And I love feelings and psychology, and I love all that. And he's just like, oh my God, if she's going to bring up feelings one time, but you kind of have to. It's not going to be the way it was. You have to get to know each other again, and you have to. I said this to him too, which sounds horrible, but I said, look, I have the babies. Like, I got what I needed from you. And he was like, God, that's brutal. And I said, no. I said, let's talk about it. I said, I want to get to know you again. And I want to want you. And I said, but so much of what my life was like was dictated by, I want to have babies, I want to have babies, I want to have babies. Like, that was my thing. And that takes a lot of time. It took a lot of effort. I went through IVF 7 times. So there was a lot of years went by in trying to achieve what I knew I wanted my whole life. But that's sort of transactional, and then you have to say, like, I like being with you. I've been really misquoted about my husband, and they've taken out sound bites, and my husband's calling me, and he's like, what do you mean? What do you mean you said that? And I said, like, one of the biggest just luxuries to me is to be able to be in a long car ride and not have to talk to him. But think about it. That's not an insult. It's a level of comfort.
Yes.
I can do my old lady needle pointing. I can listen to some, and there's a comfort in that. It doesn't mean I don't want to talk to him. It just means that. But of course, that was the soundbite that they took out, and then my husband was like, "What do you mean you don't want to talk to me?" But there's a level of comfort that you need to refine and rediscover with each other. And now the kids aren't in the house, so we don't. Our main focus, the noise, is not there anymore. So it's just the two of us and the dog.
You so flipped the conversation, which I think is so great, or maybe what might be the traditional roles in that way, because Brandy, who did my makeup for 7 years on CBS This Mornings when I anchored with Gail in the mornings, she had this thing, and it might have been posted up on the mirror, but it said, I want you, I don't need you, don't make me not want you. About a relationship with another person, this person, for her, a man in this case. But isn't that an interesting way to think about that? And you sort of described that, I want you.
And the thing is, you don't realize that, again, when you're younger and you've got your focus is on whatever, you're in the throes of all of it, and then real life happens, and life changes, and then you realize, like, oh, this is why they don't make it. This is why they break up, because this is a period where you have to put in the work, and because it's easy to just say, okay, well, we've had a good run and I'm done. And the real work starts to really kick in, and I think you have to both be willing to do it. And you have to be willing to have these difficult conversations. And I've even said, my husband is not very into therapy or any of that. I don't need to be fixed. That's his whole theory, is he's not broken.
Don't take that quote out.
Yeah, no, it's
okay, anybody?
It's fine. But it's funny, but it's a very male thing that they feel like it's a sign of weakness. And I try to say, it's not about being broken. It's about perspective and getting to know yourself on a deeper level. And, that's not comfortable for a lot of men. And I get it, but you need to be able to at least explore where you are, what you're afraid of. And I said, and if you don't like us, let's just say that's the terrifying, ugly truth, right, that you find out, wouldn't you want to know that now and give me an opportunity to change some of my behaviors that I've gotten very comfortable doing? And maybe you don't like them. But if I don't know that, I don't have the opportunity, and I'd like the respect to be able to be given the chance to grow and change and make the relationship work.
That's great. So you're about to turn 60. I don't feel bad about saying that to you because you wrote a whole book. Do you have hopes, dreams, thoughts about the next decade?
I always have hopes and dreams, and I'm very ambitious, and I always want more, and I want to, I don't think I've even really begun being the type of actress that I think I've grown into being, to be honest. I really want to put my efforts into that, and I want to make this company a success. It's my whole sort of focal point of late. And
tell everybody about your company.
So I started a company during COVID, and it's called Commence. And it began as a community for women over 40 to just talk about all these things in life, like why do we feel overlooked by the beauty industry, and why do we feel devalued? And it grew so exponentially, it just grew so fast. And I now am making product because there is no hair care out there that is designed for the over 40 scalp, and women's hair is a fraught topic.
So if I use it, my hair will look like yours?
But we don't look at the scalp as in skin. Like your pores get smaller, so you can't, your scalp cannot take in hyaluronic acid, things like that. And I'm in the lab, and I'm such a perpetual student, so I'm in the lab, and I'm finding out, you can quaternize hyaluronic acid and make it small and put it in an instant shampoo and all these things, and it's making such a difference for women in their confidence, because if you have a good hair day, you feel better. You do.
We get a show of hands. We get a show of hands on the Good Hair Day.
But I didn't know I was going to go into product development. I didn't know that that was something I wanted this community to be this conversation, and women just said, look, we have interesting challenges and nobody's addressing them. So I said, okay, I'm going to address them.
We're just about out of time. I mean, obviously you can tell I could talk to Brooke Shields forever. She is so fabulous, right? And
Like
just
a
so
one-woman show. I just talk and talk and talk.
So I have pages full of questions that I didn't get to, but one thing you said, and I do think this is an important thing, regret. Because my husband always says to me, no regrets, what's the point? And you wrote, your goal now is preventing new regrets. So how are you doing with that?
Again, it's practice. You have to practice because, for the longest time, I thought I'm not a valid actress because I'm a celebrity, or I'm pretty, so I can't be talented. And you just listen to those negative things said to you. And for so long, I didn't have to grow as a performer. I was never challenged. I was pretty, and they were like, oh no, we have you. And that's all I was asked to do or be. And I regret it. I thought, my God, what if shoulda, woulda, coulda, and what if I'd gotten Dangerous Liaisons? It was like between me and Uma Thurman, and I didn't get it. And it was like, oh, that would have changed my whole life. And, and you hold on to these areas that you ascribe a certain validation to, and you let them be your whole life. And who knows what would have happened, but I'm exactly here now because of every single thing that I did. And does it mean I don't want to become a better actress and work harder at it and grow? And yeah, I'm going to do it, but I don't have to look back and say, oh, well, if you'd only gotten that, you would have been more valuable. And it's like all that noise that just, it's so unnecessary, and it's such a waste of time. And you get tired of beating yourself up.
Totally. Well, Brooke Shields, the book is Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. A round of applause. Thank you.